Good morning. Please let us sit in silence as we listen to Frank play our prelude for today, Overcome by David New. Thank you, Frank. That was lovely. Aloha kakahiaka ka ko e komo mai. Morena tato ka koa here mai. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to this church made sacred by Auckland Unitarians for more than 100 years. My name is Keola Whittaker, and I'm your worship leader today. I come to you from Hawaii, from my ministry that spans Honolulu, Maui, Los Angeles, and beyond. It's really nice to be with you again. It's been a full year. First time I came to this pulpit was about 1 year ago, so it's nice to be back. Betsy, may I ask you to light the chalice this morning? Okay, Rachel, thank you. The chalice lighting words come to us this morning from Jamie Yandel. We light this chalice for the quiet truths we carry and for the futures we're brave enough to write. In this circle, we honor the courage it takes to live openly, the softness that sustains us, and the joy and power that grow as we gather here together. As this chalice glows, may we feel the steadiness rise in us. May we trust that our becoming, messy, radiant, unfolding, wholly belongs to us. We have dual themes this morning. The themes are shame and courage, and what happens when they come together. Our opening words this morning are, we gather this morning as people who know what it means to be uncertain. We have made plans that did not hold. We have landed in places we did not choose. We have stood at thresholds we did not expect and wondered whether we had what it takes to cross them. We gather not because we have answers, but because we have each other, and sometimes that is exactly enough. Welcome, you're in the right place. Now let us share the words of our covenant this morning. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest of truth and sacrament, and service its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve in common fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. Thus we covenant with each other and with our God. We take the time at this part of our service to pause and hold and honor the very personal joys and concerns of this gathering. Whatever you're holding this morning, whatever you brought with you, I invite you to come to the front and say your name and light a candle and briefly share your joy or concern. Or if you're joining us on Zoom this morning, please raise your electronic hand and we will call on you as we see you. Okay, let's just take a cleansing breath for all the joys and concerns that have gone unnamed. For our reading this morning, we're going to do something a little bit different. Rather than share a reading, I saw a video on Maori television that was really perfect for today's themes and for today's service. It's a 4-minute clip on the term whakamā. And so we're going to watch it in place of a reading this morning. And thanks so much for the tech team for making this possible. I know sharing a video is not easy. That's perfect. Thanks, tech team. I want to give a brief programming note before I get started because I am starting off this sermon in an unusual way for me, and I think for this pulpit. I'm going to be opening with a story from the Christian scriptures. I know. Controversy. I like to be bold here. But I want to say I do not offer it as a statement of doctrine, and I don't take it as literal history, but I offer it as a way that I think these old stories were meant, which is as metaphors, as accounts of something that is true for all of us. Okay, with that being said, now picture the crowd in this story. Jesus is passing through Jericho, and the whole city has come out to see him. It is loud and pressing and alive with anticipation, and somewhere at the edge of that crowd is a man named Zacchaeus. He's a tax collector, a collaborator, a man who has made himself comfortable by extracting money from his own people. Everyone knows who he is. Everyone knows what he has done. And this man wants to see Jesus, but he can't get through. He's short, and the crowd, the very same people he has harmed, are standing between him and what he's reaching for. So he does something that must have looked absurd. He runs ahead and climbs a sycamore tree to see. I want you to hold that image for a moment. This is one of the most compromised men in town. He's hated. And he climbs a tree alone above the crowd that has every reason to keep him out, straining to see something he's not sure he deserves to see, not knowing whether the door would be open, not knowing whether if he came down, anyone would make room for him in that community. That took courage. Not the heroic kind, but the small, desperate, undignified kind of courage, the kind that makes you climb a tree in public because you don't know what else to do, the kind that says, I want to find my way back even though I'm not sure if I'm going to be received. And then Jesus stops, and he looks up, and he sees the man. Not just a man in a tree, but a man who wanted badly enough to get through. He ran ahead and climbed. A man whose very presence there, undignified, exposed, straining, was itself a sign. Not proof of change, but the beginning of it, the desire for it. And Jesus, reading that desire, says to Zacchaeus, come down, I'm going to go to your house today. The crowd grumbles. Of course they do. He has gone to be the guest of a sinner, this man that has hurt the community. Their anger isn't wrong. Zacchaeus has taken from them. And yet, Jesus sets the table. The door is open before Zacchaeus has proved anything, before he's confessed anything, before he's repaired anything. The welcome comes first. The welcome comes first. And then something magical happens that no argument or condemnation of him had produced. Zacchaeus stands up at that dinner and announces he's a changed man. He says he will give half his possessions to the poor, and anyone he's cheated, he will repay them 4 times over. That welcome produced accountability, and the open door is what made that possible. So now let's look back at the video we watched earlier about whakamā. The video gives us a word for what Zacchaeus was carrying up that tree. The Maori concept whakamā is often translated as shame, but it's far richer than that, as we learned. It's a state of being in a gap between who you are and who you're meant to be, and the exposure of the distance between them. The darkness of having to sit with what you've done and who you've been. It's a very specific kind of shame. And what makes whakamā remarkable is not just the darkness that it names. It's what the tradition says should happen next. The community doesn't look away and shun the person. They don't punish or permanently exclude. They hold the person. It protects their mana, their dignity, while they find their way back. It's a community's job not to decide whether the person deserves return. It is to create the conditions that make that return possible. And as we talk about this concept, I do want to name that I receive it as a guest. I come from the Hawaiian culture and tradition, not Maori, and my own tradition has a practice called ho'oponopono. It's a process of communal reconciliation, of setting right what's become broken between people. The forms differ, but I think the impulse is the same. And when I saw this video, I think it names something that universalists should know, who have always insisted that no one is beyond the reach of love. It's something we should recognize. I think in that story, Zacchaeus was in whakamā up that tree. And Jesus and the small community that followed him chose to be the people who held him, who protected his dignity in the face of a crowd with a legitimate grievance, who said, "Come down, we'll make room at the table." And I want to be honest with you this morning about something. I believe this, I preach it. I believe the circle may stay open and that restoration is not just possible but necessary, and that the beloved community is built by setting places at tables for people the crowd would normally turn away. And yet, there's a group of people that are turning back towards the light that I find genuinely hard to receive back. It's people who supported a politician and a related political movement that has caused harm to vulnerable people. I won't name that politician from this pulpit because I don't think I need to. But you know, right? You know. And there are those in that movement who are now seeing the consequences, stepping back, saying they see it, asking in some cases to come back and be welcomed back into the community with the rest of us. I notice something in my body when I sit with this, a tightening, a voice that asks, where was your concern before? What he would do was obvious. The consequences were predicted clearly in advance, and the choice you made was made anyway. And I have to wonder, is this genuine reckoning, or is this the luxury of regret now that you've seen the costs and the costs have become personal? I suspect many of you have a version of this too. Not necessarily with the same leader or the same group, but someone or some category of person whose dignity you find hard to protect right now, whose return feels incomplete because the reckoning feels incomplete. And I'm not going to tell you that feeling is wrong. It's not wrong. The harm is real. Restoration without honesty is not restoration, it's erasure, and we don't have to pretend otherwise. But I keep coming back to the story of Zacchaeus up that tree, and to the crowd standing between him and what he was reaching for. And I find myself asking, am I in that crowd? And if I am, what would it mean to look up? Because what strikes me about this story is how much courage it took for everyone involved. Zacchaeus performing an act showing that he wanted to change, climbing that tree, was an act of courage. Not grand courage, small, exposed, undignified courage. He had to be seen wanting something he was not sure he could have. He had to make his desire for return to the community very visible in front of everybody he had harmed. And he could have stayed home. He could have told himself it's too late, that the crowd would never let him through. Instead, he ran ahead and climbed a tree. I think that's the courage of whakamā, to show up anyway, to be seen in the gap, to show your shame, to risk rejection in reaching for something else. And Jesus calling him down from the tree and saying, I will come to your house, was an act of courage. The crowd was right there. The grievance was legitimate. And inviting Zacchaeus was a choice made in full view of people who had every reason to object. And that invitation cost him socially, relationally, and politically. And yet the beloved community is not built without that cost. I think both kinds of courage are necessary. The person who has caused harm must find the courage to come down from the tree, to show up, to be seen, to not hide behind excuses or wait until the circumstances are right to force their hand. And the community must find the courage to open the door before the person has fully earned it. And that's what makes transformation possible, even when the wager feels risky and the crowd's anger is understandable. Neither is easy. Neither is instinctive. But I think both are acts of love. Both are sacred. And this isn't just a story for an ancient time. It's still happening in our own time. And I want to tell you the story of Adrienne Black. She grew up at the center of white nationalist leadership in America. Her father founded the first major white supremacist websites, and she was being groomed as the future of that movement. When she enrolled at New College in Florida, she was eventually discovered as the white nationalist that she was, and students organized protests against her. The anger was legitimate. She had caused real harm, and her ideology targeted and endangered real people. The crowd had every reason to close the circle. And then, a student named Matthew Stevenson, one of the few Orthodox Jewish students on campus, a person whose community had every reason to stay in the crowd, did something that looked from the outside a bit odd, probably like Jesus having dinner at the home of this tax collector. He took a risk, and he invited Adrienne to Shabbat dinner at his home. Not to debate her, not to argue, just to eat. He set a place at the table for somebody the crowd turned away. And then he kept inviting her, week after week. The table kept being set. And that invitation to dinner was the catalyst that made Adrienne take a 180-degree turn, renounce white nationalism, renounce her family, and join a new community. Since that moment, Adrienne has spoken publicly about what changed her. She wrote a book. And she says it wasn't the argument or confrontation. She had a lot of that. It was proximity. It was being known by people her ideology had taught her to fear and discovering they were fully and irreducibly human. The quiet dinners could not have happened without the community also naming what was wrong, holding an honesty together. But Matthew's invitation was courage. The courage to look up in that tree and call someone down in full view of the crowd with a legitimate grievance. And Adrienne, she found her own courage. She left the movement and spent years undoing the harm her platform and her family's platform caused. And then, later, she came out as transgender. Another act of courage. Another self that could only emerge because somebody made room at their table. Different kinds of courage. One table. One transformation that none of them could have produced alone. So if we're honest, we know that the beloved community is not a community without whakamā, without shame. It's a community that knows what to do when somebody is carrying it. It looks up in the tree and it says, come down. There's room for you here. Not because the harm didn't happen. It did. Not because the reckoning is complete. It may not be. But because the table is where reckoning becomes possible. Because it's not the reward for transformation, it is the condition that makes the transformation real. Because we cannot demand the change first and then open the door. The door has to be opened first. That is the wager of the beloved community makes. That's what it costs, and that's what it's for. And again, I'm still working on this in myself. There are real people I find genuinely hard to look up and say, come down. The tightening in my chest is real. But I also know if I wait until I feel ready, the tree may be empty by the time I look up. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of the beloved community as a society not based on punishing transgression, but transforming it. That's the universalist vision, the one that this movement was founded on, the one that says no one is beyond the reach of love. Not eventually, not conditionally, now, everyone. Our love needs to be wide enough to see the people we despise. The love that looks up in the trees for signs that people are changing and sets places at tables. It holds people in whakamā while they find their way back. It honors the dignity of that person in the gap and honors the courage that it takes to bridge it on both sides. And I wonder who in your life is up a sycamore tree right now, straining to see whether the door is open. And I wonder what it means or what it would cost and what it would make possible for you to look up and say, come down. There is room. And maybe, as I say all of this, you recognize yourself somewhere in that story. Maybe you're in the crowd carrying a legitimate grievance. Maybe you're being asked for the courage to look up. Or maybe you're the one that has climbed the tree, who has caused the harm, who has supported something you now regret, straining to see whether there is still a way back, who is wondering whether anyone will notice you're up there, and whether what brought you there, that desire, that reaching, means anything. I want you to hear this. It means something. Jesus saw it in Zacchaeus. The community can see it in you. There is room. May we be brave enough to climb that tree. May we be brave enough to call each other down. And may we build together a community worthy of the love that holds us all. Amen. For our closing words, I wanted to share something with you that you can take with you, which are words that were inspired by the Reverend Rebecca Parker. I've been doing hospital chaplaincy, and I often share these words almost like a prayer of comfort. I'm going to read it to you, a version to you, and then we're going to do a repeat. So it is, there's a love holding you. There's a love holding all that you love. There is a love holding all. I rest in that love. Now we're going to do a version that says the love holding us. So I'm going to say it first, and I'll ask you to repeat after me so you can take it with you. There is a love holding us.
There is a love holding us.
There is a love holding all that we love.
There is a love holding all that we love.
There is a love holding all.
There is a love holding all.
We rest in that love.
We rest in that love.
Thank you. Go in peace, go in courage. Go knowing that you are held. Nobody has to come up to extinguish the chalice. The chalice has been extinguished. Nevertheless, let us share the chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth,
the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, or the power of transformation. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Okay. Well, thank you for extinguishing the other candles. We're not going to do the traditional getting in groups about this to share a discussion question, but I nevertheless wanted to share a question with you just in case during lunch you'd like to discuss it. It is this. Is there someone or a group of people whose desire to change you find hard to trust, and what would it take for you to look up? It's different from the... I'm sorry. That's my fault. I changed it. So we'll just have to remember it. I'll say it again. Is there someone or group of people whose desire to change you find it hard to trust, or what would it take for you to look up? Now we have a very special postlude. It's more contemporary by Christina Aguilera, Loyal, Brave, True.
Thank you, Frank. Frank knows I'm always very moved by his postlude. Kia ora koutou, I'm Betsy, and on behalf of the Pledging and Fundraising Subcommittee, I'd like to thank you all, and all of you on Zoom, for staying online for a few minutes, and for those of you in church for staying on for this, what will be a shared lunch. And thank you, Mary and Viv, for organizing the food. Mary, who drove out very early to West Auckland this morning to get it. I'd also like to thank you, Keola, for your really inspiring and uplifting service. It really spoke to me. As most of you will know, last Sunday's service marked the beginning of our pledge campaign. Hopefully many of you were able to attend Ted's service on Zoom. If you weren't, do listen online or read the service. It was both moving and inspiring. Thank you, Ted. In his musings, Ted reflected on the passing of our beloved minister, Clay Nelson, nearly 2.5 years ago. And he spoke about the resilience, commitment, and heart that our community has shown since then. Many of you will recall that one of Clay's legacies was to strengthen lay leadership. For me, this is the key as to why we have continued to have meaningful services bolstered by people like Keola, who come to provide us with services, and why we've been able to continue nurturing our commitment to our community and to social justice work. And we've maintained a strong financial base. What's more, last year we managed to exceed our goal for a new ministerial fund, with the expectation that if such a commitment continues, we can look to hiring a minister in the next few years. This year's pledge campaign, Building Virtual Circles, reflects the momentum we have and are continuing to build together. This morning I've been asked just to say a few words about why I pledge and about the mechanics of pledging. Why do I pledge? Well, there are many reasons, but I'll limit them to 3 at the moment. First, I am very proud to call myself an Auckland Unitarian. I'm proud of our values, our radical religious heritage, our open pulpit, and our history of standing up for what is right and just. I also pledge because I'm grateful to have been part of this community for nearly 40 years, having first attended so that my sons, who were 3 and 5 at the time, could be part of a strong children's RE program. I hope we'll soon have a minister so that we can offer such programs again. I'm also grateful that this community has become my spiritual home. Here I feel I can be truly myself with all of my faults and the forgivenesses that all of you offer. I also feel privileged to sit with and work alongside many of you who, like me, are not only searching for my own sense of truth and meaning, but who also care about and for one another. Finally, I pledge because I feel passionate about who we are and what we can do together to have a voice and make a difference. I credit Clay for sparking off my passion in this way by involving me in taking a stand for the Indian students for whom we fought to oppose their unjust deportation. Our ability to have a voice and make a difference continues today, for example, through our membership of the Te Ohu Alliance, which is comprised of nearly 40 community faith and union groups. And as many of you know, it was through Clay and Rachel that we first became involved in Te Ohu. And as one of the 2 congregational representatives on the Te Ohu strategy group, I'm passionate about our membership, as I believe it offers us a unique chance to build new relationships in the community and welcome newcomers including young ones, through our doors. It also gives us an opportunity to affect political and social change. And I think Maria, in her announcement, described so well the power of storytelling that is the basis of Te Ohu, and that becomes the basis of whatever action we as a collaborative take. And we'll have that opportunity to tell our stories next Sunday. These passions of mine represent only some of the many ways in which all of you in our congregation continue to ensure that we have a strong and vibrant community. So in considering what you will pledge to help sustain the momentum, keep in mind that while some of us can pledge financially, others contribute by donating time and energy, and some of us are fortunate enough to be able to do both.